All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live club session. I'm sorry for the slight delay. My laptop was having some typical hiccups. Usually I get that fixed on time, but now it took me a little longer. I just posted a link to the slide deck that you can use for the session today, but of course, as usual, it will be available afterwards. Um, and also, there's a post on the community that features this link. You can also find the link to the song grids that we'll be using in this session um, in the slide deck, but also on the community post. So, hello everybody from I see in Boston, Portugal, Canada, all over the world as usual, Switzerland, UK, Manchester, Germany, San Diego. Great. Let's dig right in because we are all already behind schedule. And it's about a topic you cannot rush. You cannot rush learning songs. Um, definitely. Is audio on? Sounds good. Okay, if there would be an audio issue, let me know. Um, if there is audio or not. If you keep quiet, I assume audio is well. This is an issue about a thing that you shouldn't rush, and that's learning songs. You don't just learn a song 2 days before you need to gig with it. It's a long undertaking, and thanks for notifying that you hear perfectly. It's it takes a while to really internalize a song, and part of your practice schedule will be about that, about the repetition, sleep, the cycle that you go through to do that. And we'll come to that later, of course. So, on the menu today, a bit of science to explain you where my methods are based on and why does it work this way, and what tricks can we use based on that science. Some um, some info about how to learn songs, how to cut songs in smaller pieces to lower the cognitive load, and some real practical tips about how you could divide a solid block in your practice schedule that handles learning songs. So let's dig right in. First of all, I want you to go from a mindset of I'm reproducing a song to I'm telling a story. And this is important because if you over focus on bringing the song exactly as it is, you are stressing yourself with extra cognitive load, and also this extra pressure isn't going to help you. It's important that you understand what the song is about and what feelings you associate with this, so you can tell the actual story, that you can bring a certain dynamic in this and you're not just playing chords and bringing the lyrics. It's an important part of performing a song, but also in, even if you play for yourself, in feeling a song, being able to express yourself in a song. You cannot really do that if you just reproduce a song. Um, it's okay to play the song close to the original. I'm not saying that you should play it in a completely unique personal style, but you should be able to feel what the story is about, and how the song works and feels, being able to express yourself with it. Then you can't just learn the song in a few days. You can do that perhaps to reproduce it, but you'll never internalize it, and you're taking some risks, uh, some blackout risks, risks forgetting stuff, skipping stuff, things like that. Learning songs and practicing songs is a continuous habit. Having a steady practice schedule, rather more short sessions than one big long session in the weekend, having a continuous repetition of songs, really internalize it. That doesn't mean you have to practice all the songs all the time, which would take a lot of time if you start to build up quite a repertoire. So we'll get back to that. First of all, a bit of science. Why is this important? Because uh, some of these principles I'll be showing you are based upon how this works. And this little scheme is an important one in that. And everything that comes in for us through our sensory to our senses is sensory data, and it arrives in our sensory memory. And what we do there is we already make a selection in what we take in. And a lot of that is on a subconscious level. And this can be impacted by how awake are we, how interested are we, how focused are we on a certain aspect, and perhaps over focusing on one thing and losing track of the other thing. And what comes in is this information of images, of sound, of smell, of all the things, all sensory imagery, and we already make a selection in this. And this selection goes to our working memory. In this working memory, we start to we start to assess what is going on. We start to organize. We start to put some things together. But what we also do is, and this is the integration part, we go to our long-term memory and we see what do we already know about this. What is the knowledge in our knowledge network, in the neural network that is our knowledge network, all pieces of knowledge connected to each other via a certain relation. What do we already know? And we go fetch this. And you will see this fetching, this recalling of information is crucial to learning. Um, one already finding information there and making connections with this. We're not only making connections with the sensory info that just came in, but especially with the information that we got from our own memory. So new info, old info coming together. Our working memory makes something out of it. And then we try to store it into our long term memory. And the solidification of this long term memory usually happens when we are sleeping. That's why I often say I'd rather have you doing more short sessions with some sleep in between than doing one big session because you won't retain as much from that. That's why we teach our kid um, to repeat stuff and able to learn it when they need to learn it for school. But what we do is we start integrate, and this we all use for the performance, of course. Fetching what's already in our long-term memory is an important thing. It it solidifies the neural pathways. It makes stronger connections in our knowledge network. So remember what came in, some new information came in, but also we make connection with the old information that's already in this long-term memory. And eventually that's what we want. That's what the session is about. It's about memorizing this. We're not just rambling about with it in our working memory. No, no, we want it to end up in our long-term memory. And integrating what we with what we already know is crucial. Sometimes it's literal knowledge, it's literal chord progression that we were learning, and we already tried to learn it last time, and we fetch it. And this actual fetching makes these connections stronger. But then we connect what we already have, and we try to put it back when we're asleep. So it goes both way, and that's why the arrow from working memory to long-term memory is a double arrow. So I get back to that, and you'll see. So as I said, retrieving from your memory actually reinforces those neural pathways. It enhances speed and accuracy, and that's why you might think that reading and rereading helps study, but that's not really true. If you would play a song from the song sheet all the time and you just read it in a sequential way, you're not going to learn it by reading it. You're probably, if you do it 100 times, you might pick up some stuff of it, and that's because of the repetition rather than the reading. Reading is what they call bad encoding. It's not as powerful as the methods that we'll see today. So back to ye old layered approach. Those who've followed some older sessions know that I like to compose songs in horizontal layers, not learning it literally from the beginning to the end, but starting with a basic structure. Rhythm is king. It's on the base layer. On top of it, we have the structure of our song. We have an intro, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, whatever. In each of these blocks, we have certain chord progressions with basic chords. On top of that, we go build chord embellishments or little lead lines. We go and expand in complexity, and the higher we go in these layers, the more complex and the more details we add. But those bottom layers, they become the minimum viable product. They become the minimum thing you need to have a song. And as soon as you have a complete song, even if it's basic structure, basic chords, then you can speak of a song. And from there on, you start to expand and make it better, polish it, correct some things, stuff like that. And lyrics are on top of that as well. And if you learn a song, you you need to try to split the cognitive load. Cognitive load is the amount of information you try to internalize. And if you try to learn a strumming pattern, learn a rhythm, learn the structure of a song, learn the chords that are in the blocks and the lyrics, and you need to play it, and you need to have a constant feedback loop in what am I playing? Does it sound correct? Do I need to correct? That's a lot of cognitive load all into one. And if you had a bad night, if you have distractions around you, if you are a bit stressed, then the ability to process this cognitive load also diminishes. So imagine a big cognitive load divided by a small processing power at that time. That's not really efficient. And that's why I teach students to work in layers, to split up the work. And splitting up the work is also essential to this technique. One is recalling, that we'll get back to, and two is splitting up the work. And you can do that for a song in the horizontal layers and in sections. And then you go building. And you start to build with the smallest parts that make up a song. We'll see what these are. So, splitting up, what does that mean? It means literally cutting it in pieces, but also it means applying some structure. It means adding information also. And by this, I mean, let's cut it in pieces, but add information. Like, do we change how we put these things on paper? Do we add some colors to certain blocks in the song, like an intro, a chorus, a verse? Do we give them different blocks so we have a visual dashboard of a song when we see these colored blocks? But also, a big start is being able to identify parts in a song, because usually a song has a certain repeating, a certain some patterns, some repeating patterns in it that you need to identify. If you try to learn a song just from the paper and you see lyrics and chords on top of it, it might be hard to spot what the structure is. And sometimes chords begin on the next line and you don't really see it. But if you would put those in a grid, very rigid grid, you might see that it's the same pattern repeating all over again. And that's, if you start to look for structure in a song, you will notice that, and you can divide your song into blocks and figure out, I'll call this a verse, I'll call this a chorus, this is an intro. I know that the chorus, the intro and the verse often uses the same chords. Is this the same thing for my song? And so on. If you know there's another chorus coming, check if it is the same chorus as there was before, or maybe there's a slight variation. Don't worry about variations yet. Decide on one version of the chorus and learn this, and later on apply changes when needed. Because the essence of a song usually is one verse, one chorus. And if you start learning a song, I would advise that focusing on just one verse and one chorus and working with this, and make sure that your playing is fluent. And if you're a bit more experienced, you already know how to sing with that, you can try that. But my advice is focus on the feel first. How do these chords work? What is the timing? Split the cognitive load, rhythm, chord structure, and in this certain block I'm working. So, very concrete example here. I have a chord sheet in front of me, and it has chords and it has lyrics. Um, if I would start playing through that and I start following this Neil Young song, it would be hard for me to see the structure. But if I go and search for patterns and just write down this pattern, I will soon spot that the song consists of one line of four blocks being repeated all over. E minor, D, and then two times A minor, because A minor has double the length of the other chords. So if you think, oh, this chord goes long or wrong, start to count with it. Listen to the song and count with it, and you will notice that in many cases, no matter what time signature, it is a multiplication of a certain block. And in this case, the A minor block is multiplied by two. It's played two times. If you would play this, if I would grab a guitar and I would play this, no matter if I would play it fast or slow, if I play the A minor block two times, you will always be able to sing this song over it. As said, we split the song in pieces, as in chorus and verse, and try to figure out which blocks make up the song. There is a sequence of blocks that make up the song, but you can also make your divisions in the layers. And I usually advise to start with chords that really suit you. These sessions are aimed at beginners as well. So I say if you can find the most basic versions of the chords, use them. If it says E minor 7 and you still have issues with E minor 7, play E minor. It is within the same flavor territory. It is the same chord. It's the same little country, but it's just a different location, different flavor. You can manage to play a regular E minor. And that's what we do here in this scheme. Let's say, for example, in week one, we played the song with E minor, then a D major chord, A minor, A minor. But in our next week, we start to expand on that and we decide to add an E minor 7 and we experiment with changing between E minor and E minor 7. Same thing for D major and D sus4, D sus2, A minor, and we add A minor 7, or we play one block A minor, one block A minor 7, or in other sessions about spicing up your open chords, we discuss this in great length, so I won't go deeper in that. But it's just to show you that you cut up your work both horizontally and vertically. A tool that I find very useful, especially if I think the song is very, very complex. And if you think all songs are complex, try to use it for every song. I'm not the judge of that. The important thing is that this grid helps you to see the structure in a song. For example, the example I always use is Let It Be, because it has multiple ways to repeat itself. If you would lay out the words in a grid, it would look like this, the green block. And you see not only that it is a nice, neat grid of 4 by 4. Each line is 4 chords, and each line has the same length, and each block has the same length. It's a number of measures, a number of strums. I don't know these by heart, but I know if I would play this along, fast or slow, it will sound like Let It Be. Also, I noticed within the lines, line 1 and 3 are the same, and 2 and 4. So it's a repetition of a block, 2 lines, and it gets repeated. Same thing for the chorus. You might not notice this when you play Let It Be from a paper, and it might take you weeks just playing along these chords and thinking, well, I can't figure out how to learn it. But if you would place them in a grid like this, you will quickly see it that actually you need to learn 4 lines and repeat these in a certain pattern. And these blocks make up the structure of the song, because later on you'll see that Let It Be is intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, a solo, another chorus. and your song is done. You can even drop the solo if you want. So it's learning 4 lines or 4 blocks and knowing how to sequence these. Here I used one of the song grids that I linked. I think in the next slide you will find a download link with three variations. Uh, what's a song? What is the key? And then you see a bunch of letters, and that's the chord structure. Intro, I, V is for verse, C is for chorus, and then you see a repetition. You see VC, VC, VC. That's another repetition of first chorus, first chorus, first chorus. As I said, a song, if you know the verse and you know the chorus of a song, you know the bread and butter. You know the meat and potatoes of your song. If you work on these, you already have a very, very strong base. If you would manage to learn and internalize these, and they're in your long-term memory, and you need to later on build your song around these, you will not need to recall each separate chord and which chord was it. You will do this in blocks, and this really helps your control. You are in your hierarchy of control. You go up in blocks. You don't need to micromanage each chord. You don't need to micromanage each little soldier doing this. No, you work in complete platoons and regiments because you know I've internalized this chorus already, and this chorus consists of these blocks, and I can see these blocks for me. And this is what control does. You know, it's that block, and you will be able to fall back to your muscle memory for a lot of that. And muscle memory means a less cognitive load. Muscle memory is what comes from a lot of it comes from below the consciousness line, something I showed in another session. Below this line of consciousness, you need less processing power. This comes more automatically. This is more of a reflex. And gradually putting all these blocks, managing it, putting them away in blocks and tying them together makes it easier to control a song. Also, to to decide mid-song what you will do. If you are in perfect control of, I know I'm in the chorus and it's this block, and you see my crowd isn't really buying it, I'm gonna wrap up. You know where this block ends, and you know how to end it. If you're playing just from sheets and you're following along, you're not in control. Your paper is in control. And you'll notice that if you know where you are in each part of the song, it will be far easier to wrap it up where you want. You can visualize this. And I haven't mentioned this, but this grid and these colors give you extra information in your long term memory as a hook, as an anchor. These will help you making connections. This is the extra info that I mentioned, adding information. We cut off some of the fat that we don't need. We take the lean meat that we need, but we add some meta information, being these colors, being these grids, and they help us because we do not master the lyrics yet. We don't really have a story yet. A bit of a story is the flow of the song, stuff like that, and how it sounds, but we don't have much yet. And this extra information really helps creating these hooks. For people who have a very visual memory, they know what I'm talking about. Visual hooks really help them. Visual anchors really help them. For example, when I had to study history, and it was about philosophers and historical figures, I drew little heads with certain characteristics I imagined these people looked like, and I could link their properties to this head. And if somebody asked who was Descartes, I knew, oh, that he looked like that in my drawings. Oh, this is what he said. These were his properties. So visual anchors there. So as I said, rhythm is king. And if you're playing live, people are there for story and entertainment and the show and having a good time. That is the goal. And how you play the song is only a means to an end. If it is, does it need to be the exact same thing as the original? No. People want People want the story, people want the feel, people want the dynamic, people want the ups and downs, and people even appreciate if you make your own thing out of it. Because if you're very close to the original, they will compare it to the original. If you make more of your thing of it, they will see it as something of your own. A lot of that is being discussed in the session about making songs your own. If you want to know more about that, check these out. These topics, they overlap. That's because they all tie in together. So it's hard to not venture in those interesting topics. But as I said, you need to be in control, not your paper. Also, if you have a paper in front of you on stage, it really forms a physical barrier between you and your audience. Um, it really, you are looking at the paper and people are looking at you, and you're standing there. And not only can you really feel what the song is about and bring it, you won't be able to connect so well with your crowd if you can look them in the eye and switch between people that you're looking at while you are playing. You're really making a far more a better connection with those. Um, I was checking if the if the link to the actual song grids was in this version of the slide deck, because I fear. Just give me a second, and I will share the folder here with you guys in live. Songs, yes, it is. Come on, computer, you can do this. Yes. So I will post the song grids. Three PDFs. Three PDFs. One version is just that I show you song title, song structure, and some basic blocks, and an open blocks where you can create grids. Another version is the same thing, but with some chord boxes if the song has some chords that are hard to remember. And the third version is in landscape. It also features some tab lines where you can add little lead stuff or solos, intro stuff like that. So three variations of that. Excellent. So example, Basket Case. It sounds like an easy punk rock song, but it is quite elaborate. And what I did here is I applied colors to the different sections. And there's quite a lot of sections, and they repeat. And then I added lines in the structure that really helped me. I saw, oh, the blue, yellow, and green block is something that's repeated below that. And then it's connected by these red. And one time it's two lines, the other time it's four lines. But if I'm able to get this structure and I learn each section on its own, then I can tie them together. And later on, when it really matters that I need to play the song exactly structured as it is, I can do that. But at least it gives me the control to play a verse, a chorus, and a linking section when I want to. This I would never be able to do if I would be reading it from a chord sheet. This is what I see here. If you practice it, the first times you're probably reading the chords from the grid. The other time you see, oh yeah, it's the blue part. I know this blue part is already muscle memory now. And you learn the yellow section, you learn the green section. Then you start to add these sections to each other. Once again, chopping it up and making the cognitive load smaller. It's a great song because it seems straightforward and easy peasy, but actually trying to remember this is a challenge. It has power chords, and you need to switch positions. Um, um, yeah, there's something else I want to say that, but I'll say that later. Um, the lyrics can be just as intimidating as well. The Cortez the Killer song is actually a whole story, somewhat in a chronological sense. The other one is more of a philosophical sense, and you need to figure out which person is actually talking. Is it the narrator? Is it Cortez himself? it is a bit of a story, and trying to figure out what that works, how that works, really helps. But splitting the load into mini stories really helps. And I applied some lines here. Um, the first one is really setting the scene. It's a real physical thing. One ship is on the water. It has a lot of things on board, and they're looking for a new world. Mini story on its own. You could draw a picture of this mini story. You could capture it more or less in one image. The next one is Montezuma on the shore. It tells how he's clothed, yeah, where he is and what he's doing. Once again, this could be a picture on its own. So you could, like a comic book, you could even create a little storyboard on how this song works. And when you're doing this, you're internalizing the story. I was visualizing things. I was seeing a ship on the water, and I was already adding information. So instead of trying to learn all the lyric, I was building the story. I cut off just a small part of it. I'm focusing on this part now, but I'm adding my own anchors. My anchors are: how does the ship look like? How is the water going? There's a shore. How does it have palm trees or not? All details that you perhaps don't need, but don't overthink it. But it's just to show that you have your own anchors, and these anchors come from yourself, and they are the best tools because these anchors are information that are already in your long-term memory. They are already in your knowledge network. Integrating what's new with these existing things, the existing things will grab the new things along, and they say, look, you have to go here. Long-term memory is that way. They will go back. They will store it there. Later on, if you need to recall them, it will be easier to do that because you store them connected to the existing things. And this is what makes these neural paths stronger. So, you're probably learning a song with a reference in front of you, being the song grid, being the lyrics paper with the chords. I'm not forcing you to use the song grid. It's a tool that can help you if you think it's valuable for you. Use it if you still want to use your song papers. It's all cool. You can apply the other methods as well, being finding the stories, finding the structure, the blocks, all the other things apply. You can draw lines and colors on your paper that if they can help you. But gradually, you need to reduce this reference. Gradually, you want to tone that down, and you start to work with those anchors more and more. You start to feel the mini stories more and more. You start to recognize your own anchors, these characters, places, but also emotions. Uh, the emotions really help in making a song your own. What do you feel? Can you imagine you being the main character of this song? Or is this song about somebody you know? Or do you imagine the song is about somebody you know? Um, Somebody who went through a similar situation and has emotions you imagine are the same. These things can all help you in making these anchors, but also if you have an emotional connection, it will be easier to express yourself on that in being empathic with what happens in this story and using this to bring out this energy. It will make your bond with your audience stronger as well. And it will be harder to do if you're behind the stand with the paper. I'm not judging you if you do this, but if you can be on stage and bring it from the heart, out of your heart, it it will be effect times three times four at least. I'm sure of that. So it's said use your own anchors. Um, but anchors alone is not enough. You need a little mechanic stuff to help you as well, especially if it's a lot of lyrics. And I noticed that memorizing the lyrics I write myself are the hardest. Ain't that silly? Yes, because they come out so easily. For songs that I write for the band, it's no it's a Nobel Prize material what I write for the band, but uh, it's harder to memorize for me. Um, it happens a lot with songs that have less coherent stories or are more of a summation of different things. Um, these songs often come from somewhere, and when you try to play a song that already exists, you have already internalized a lot of information. You already internalized emotions that are paired with the song. Where were you when you heard this song? What emotions do these songs evoke when you hear them? Um, how do you imagine the song? What happens in the story? It's already anchors that you attach to this song that have enriched it and already gave it a good spot in your permanent memory, in your long term memory. When you write your own songs, there often isn't that much information, and you need to create that yourself. But beside that, what can help is identifying keywords in your lyrics. And if you find these keywords, the most the songs with the words with the most meaning in this sentence, and I did this here in this example, because these words can help you reconnect and reconstruct and recall what's somewhere in your long-term memory, but it's somewhere in the archives in the back. You weren't that structured when you put it all away in your long-term memory. But the more you take the same path through the same archive in the back of your head, the easier it gets. It's like when you drive somewhere, um, trying to recall where it was and trying to reach your destination will internalize this location better. You will be able to get there without a GPS sooner than when you would use a GPS. For some people, it doesn't matter, I know, but for most people, it will go faster if you actually try to recall it. At least try to recall it. Oh, it was somewhere over there. It will help train your orientation as well. Well, this is orientation. This is identifying keywords in your lyrics. And here I created my own images. Went looking online. What how does this feel? How would this story look like? How does it feel to me? What is the atmosphere? Um, Seeing these images when I play this song will help me. Oh yeah, they were on a ship. Oh, it's soldiers. Oh, and there's Montezuma. Yeah, he had special clothes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he was in halls and he was doing things and pondering. And there was a lot of people, men and women. Oh yeah, the lyrics was about men and women. Look, I'm grabbing those anchors again. And in this case, thinking of an image goes really fast for me, and I can associate my anchors, and they come easier. And these words can help you in the literal sense, because I show you the three column layout, where first column you have the literal lyrics. That's a tongue breaker. Next to that, you have a column with these key terms. These key terms, they are the skeleton of your lyric. And then if you move on and you practice a song even more, you will end up with just some keywords, um, not even for every line, but just enough hook to get you going again. So gradually you want to remove reference, but you can just take away all your lyrics all at once. No, why not make a three column layout like this, put a paper in front of it, and try the right column first and see how much you can reconstruct. Try to recall first. Challenge yourself with it and see, it's not hard. And you will fail. You will miss things. You will skip things. But it is the practice of the recalling that actually trains your long term memory. And don't ever forget that. It is a kind of a mantra, like rhythm is king. If you find that it's still too hard, slide your paper a bit to the left that you have slightly more rich information and work from there. Sometimes you might have to peek to know the exact words because you notice that it doesn't always fit. And don't worry if you use a slightly different word or you use small words more than there are in the lyrics. As long as your story comes across and the timing, the phrasing is okay, that's a more important thing. You might notice that if you hear a song for a long time, You haven't heard a song for a long time, but you have been playing it, that it might have evolved a bit, that might have changed a bit. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to correct yourself. If it sounds good, it tells a story, it actually becomes more of you, and perhaps the phrasing, the timing changed just a little bit, but that really made it your version, and the story is still the same. It's still intact. So don't worry about that. Internalizing isn't reproducing the song, it is being able to feel the song, being able to feel the story, being able to identify, to empathize with it. This all helps in being a better performer. And if you want to play songs live, being the performer is more important than being a Xerox machine for songs, right? Nothing wrong with trying to play it as close to the original as you want, but you don't want to come across as a Xerox machine. That's the difference. So another trick, it kind of belongs to the Green Day part, is visualizing where the root note goes because the Green Day song uses power chords, and you could help learning the chords and the chord progression by seeing where the root note goes. Example, um, the the first line is D A B F sharp. Where are these notes? And you could draw a little shape to see, oh yeah, it's a kind of the N shape that I have to move my chords in. Um, and since the power chord shape remains the same on these two strings, it just moves along. The reference point is the root note, and it moves along the shape. This kind of visual can help you as an extra anchor to memorize these chord sequences. There's also memorization apps. I put some links in there. They help you blanking out certain parts if you want to practice learning lyrics away from the guitar. And doing just chords, doing just singing, doing just some lyric exercise helps you eliminating some other cognitive load that you don't need at this moment, like playing these chords and listening. That's all cognitive load. Cut it off and focus on just learning the lyric, or focus on just playing the chords, feeling physically what you are playing and hearing it and making the connection, making it the muscle memory. So once again, a way to split up things is learn these lyrics differently. And you can try some of these apps. They will gradually blank out more for you. Very helpful if you want to literally learn these lyrics. Okay, a lot of theory, a lot of science, a lot of techniques to cut up song, to apply anchors, to connect it to feelings, imagery, stuff like that. But at a certain point, you want to incorporate it in your practice schedule. And first of all, you start with a good preparation, and a good preparation starts with a good starting point. As said, don't start 2 days before you have to go live with this song. Start at least 3 weeks if you want to internalize a new song, and that's kind of a random number. Um, so I imagine what it would take me to actually. That's a real minimum. That's really a minimum. If I'm going to take new songs to a live venue, 3 weeks is absolutely the minimum. Knowing that I will be practicing regularly because I really want to internalize it. I want to be able to use no paper, no references. I want to be performer and make a connection with my crowd, and then being able to feel the song and being in control, of course. And that asks repetition, repetition, repetition. Small chunks, small chunks, small chunks. Learning all these small chunks, connecting them into bigger chunks, making them a whole, being able to control these chunks how I want to. It all takes some time. Um, so frequent practice, frequent practice will reduce the cognitive load because one, you have the time to split it up, and two, you get used to things. Your muscle memory will get trained for this song, and you get used to that. Lower cognitive load means more processor power for other things. trying to learn the chords, and you also need to learn these lyrics. That's why splitting up, learning some lyrics some other time can help, but you also need to do them together. You can't learn a song by learning the lyrics separately all the time and then suddenly the day before the gig trying to play them together. That's not going to work. Um, but splitting it up now and then is a good idea. Um, each practice should consist of these elements. Trying to play what you work on makes sense. You're practicing. Um, some of the well-known songs will be in there. A song from longer ago. Let's fetch something that's farther away. And optional, but recommended, is improving on songs that you are currently learning, like embellishments, like polishing up some mistakes, or you always play the more basic version of a chord and you want to play the exact chord that's played right there. You can start with an inventory of your songs. Make a list. What is your repertoire? That you at least keep track of songs. I have a Google sheet with all my songs that are in my active list, and the other sheet is my wish list, the ones I'm working on or at someday I want to start working on. Uh, and it seemed valuable because at a certain point I go over the list and it's, oh yeah, I totally forgot I actually knew that song and I need to recall it because otherwise it might gradually degrade by not playing it. Remember, doing the recall once in a while refreshes those neural pathways. At a certain start, at a certain age, we don't actually grow neurons anymore. They only degrade, and they degrade more if you live unhealthy. So degrading neurons need to be replaced by other connections, and this is why you need to recall them once in a while. My advice is, um, if you are memorizing songs, not to go over the amount of three. Otherwise, you have a lot of cognitive load, and you will lose efficiency on the songs you're learning. You're spreading your attention too much. Some people only manage to do one. Some will be able to do manage more. You will see that three is. I see somebody saying my wish list is quite long. That's cool, and you have a lot of work cut out for you. Uh, I'll go into the chat later on after the session and go for your questions. Um, it definitely gets harder if you get older. Yes, Justin has an excellent video about that. If you get older, your neuroplasticity it diminishes. Um, on the other hand, if you get older, you can learn to learn smarter. And I noticed that with my kids when they try to study, that I might not be as young as they are, but I've learned to learn smarter. And all of this that I'm telling you might not work for you, but some things might help. And learning smarter is finding out which things work for you, experimenting with them, combining them, seeing which version of this information works for you. And that's learning smarter. And that's something you can learn. Repetition is still the best teacher for this. Chopping it in amounts of cognitive load you can manage and repeating by recalling. So check out the maturity of your songs as well. Have you mapped the structure? Do you know what the chords are? How far do you know the lyrics as the three column method goes? Stuff like that. Each song has a certain maturity on certain levels that you can put on your paper, but you'll know for most songs what that is. But keep that in mind if you start to learn or practice or polish songs. We discussed building the repertoire with campfire songs, the developers, and the dream songs, and it's kind of a pyramid. It works like that. So the song grids, I showed you these. Create these for songs that you are learning to see. Do you have issues with remembering the chords when you try to learn them from a typical chord and lyric paper. Um, and here's the link to the song grids. I forgot that I put them here. Um, so in this location, you find these three versions that can help you plot out these songs. And in your complete um, practice schedule, there should be a big block of songs. I usually teach my students to, if they learn certain techniques, certain really physical aspects of playing, to find songs where they are used, because that way you both practice the song and the technique, and they will help each other. You will be motivated to learn the song by repetition uh, when doing this technique. And when you play the song, you practice the technique if you want to play the song well. So they serve each other. Um, but a big chunk of your practice session each day should have some songs. You don't need to do all the blocks that I'll show you now per se, but I think it's a good blueprint to start from and to decide from yourself, what do I want to use from this. Start off with a recall of your work in progress. Without the papers. I put it in orange. Without the papers. Just you grab your guitar and start to play, and if you sing with it, start to sing and see how far you get. Don't stop. If you miss some bit lyrics, hum along, sing la la la. If you need to pick up on the chords again, try to drop in again where you know it. It's a good skill that trains your life skills, being able to um, pick yourself up again when you're fumbling on stage. So just try to see how far you get. And this is when you recall. This is where you fetch all this information from your long-term memory. And if you have some anchors already, if you have some images of Cortez on his ship, or you have some emotions that you attach to this, or you have a story in your mind how this looks like, it will be far easier to fetch this. Hotel California, for example, is just a big story. If you have images in your mind on what's happening when the dude is driving through the desert and night is falling, how does it look like? If you see these images, it will help you to recall what's there. Do that first, recalling. It's not perfect, but no worries. Just see how far you can get and correct your mistake. Check your grid, check your lyrics, um, which was a part that you fumbled. Try to recall, try to see what is that part, what's the chord exactly of this chunk. We'll do that again. And then you sandwich it between two parts that you know. For example, if you have issues with the bridge, you play a verse, a bridge, and a chorus. You sandwich it between two things you know. Comfortable, you play through that, and then you will challenge your muscle memory and go in automatic mode when you go into that bridge. Let's see how strong the automatic mode is. Okay. And then you make the transition to the chorus. You end it up with a comfortable feeling again. Sandwich that. And then, if you did that, papers away again, and you try to recall it again. It won't be stored in your long-term memory. There won't be a lot of new information in your long-term memory at this point. This will happen at night when you sleep mostly. But it will see in your working memory how have you enriched it. Have you attached certain pieces of information that fortified this, that the house still stands instead of collapsing? Yes or no? Try to repeat the process a few times if it's not working for you. Don't get frustrated. Um, trust the process and know that tomorrow will be better if you have night of sleep. You did a good practice with this tonight. You might already find some improvement, but tomorrow, guarantee it will be better. You always have off days for guitar. In general, you always have off days. It's not that your level is declining. If you're not playing for a few days, your level won't be declining that fast. Um, it's just needs to kick in again, and do the right recalls like that, pulling that engine, making it start. Might take a few pulls extra, but it will come around, and it's there. So you did the recall of the song you were working on. Um, then it's time to learn something new. Get that grid in front of you. Do you connect with how does it work? What is this structure? Have you put have you thought of enough anchors for this? Um, Play some of the blocks, the smallest blocks, with paper, without paper. Try to approach it from as much angles as you can, because all these angles they give you extra information, extra anchors. Is certain different pattern? Is it do you apply certain colors? Do you Anchors can be a lot of things. Check out what your anchors are and play them. Another block is reprise two or three known songs, as in songs that are not perfect, but you have a good meat and potatoes version of, and you might be already improving it a bit. Avoid papers. Just try to play what you know, and check. Do you still feel the story? Do you have a story? Do you connect with it? How do you connect with it? How do you see yourself in the story? Um, and then do you know it well enough to start making it your own or play the more complex version of it, where you simplified it before? Check out, are you playing exact lyrics or your own lyrics? And that's okay. Is it okay, or does it sound too wrong now? Decide for yourself and correct that. This is where you recall what's in your memory, and you feel it, and by feeling it you are affirming those connections, those anchors, but you're also a bit evaluating. You're also checking, is it correct? What can I do here and here? So it's a combination of what's your reflex, your anchor, what you're recalling, but also adding a bit of that really quality improving thing. For the new thing and what you're working on, it's more of a quantity thing, trying to take a certain chunk and we are internalizing this with these methods. This is more about the polish, more about the quality thing. Now, that's always cool. Recalling a really old one you haven't played for a long time, and checking out no papers. Try to play the whole song through and see how far you get and where your engine sputters. Do you still feel it? Does it feel boring, or does it need a certain spark? Or are you surprised with that you actually kind of like this song or not? Um, Retake some sections that perhaps had some mistakes, but check out, are you still feeling this? This is more of a checkup. This is more of a going back to it, and how do I feel about this song, and evaluating, will I keep this on my list for a long time? What do I need to do with this song to keep it there? It needs a bit more of this. You get more of an outsider's perspective. You are playing it. It is in your memory, but you get more of an outsider's perspective on, this song isn't actually that special to me. It's not working that well. It's a good set filler. I should keep it there and perhaps replace it later. Stuff like that. Playing an old song once in a while, putting that in your set list, is a good check on this. And also, it recalls. It creates some new neural pathways where some are probably degrading already. So if it was there, it refreshes, and it's a good time to add some new polish here and there if it's necessary. But it's a good refresher. What's once in a while? Well, what is long ago? Perhaps 6 months ago is a long time ago for not having played a song. If you feel like 3 months ago is an eternity for you, then it's 3 months. That's up to you. Usually for me, that songs that I haven't played for 4, 5, 6 months, and that really happens. All right, let's go along. Then we did quite a roller coaster on old and new and working on, and then we recall the new thing again, the new thing you're learning, checking out, okay, how much have we retained this new house we were building in our working memory? Not a lot of it in our long-term memory or working memory. What's left of it? And check it with this. First without a paper, see, okay, what actually got stuck. Then with a paper to correct. And just trying a verse and chorus might be enough to check what the meat and potatoes of the song are, and did it really stuck. It's a good recall. It's a good repetition to start to gently wrap up your practice session and take it in your internal memory. Because if it's only in the beginning of your session, it might not be strong enough to keep a lasting impression in your long-term memory, because a lot of what we remember is at the far end of what we experience. So, and that's a fun thing. Pick a fun one as well. One you think I really connect with this one. I really feel this one. This is my story. Perhaps it's your one of your own songs. Um, Find personal touches and experience with strumming. Yeah, this is uh, where you go nuts with. Oh, let's try something completely different. I'm gonna change genres on this, and for this you need to be really in control of your song. Um, and a fun alternative is acting like it is a performance to see, okay, what if I'm taking this song on stage? Uh, does it work? It could be the songs that you have been working on for quite a while, and you think, yeah, by this time I need to be ready for it to go on stage. Well, then this is the section of the practice where you act like you go on stage. It could be even you set up your microphone and guitar, stuff like that, and you even need to get into one room to the other and grab your guitar and put your microphone right and check your posture and your whole stage ritual that we discussed in another session and start playing like it's a gig. It's a great feeling and it's a great test, because this is where cognitive load, you start to make associations with this live feeling, and you might even be able to imagine yourself being there. And the stress and the cognitive loads are already shifting a bit. Stress, as said, has an impact on that, and you want some more processor power. And that's why you notice that you need some margin in processor power when you go live for things to go wrong, because there is a lot of new kinds of sensory data coming to you. Remember the sensory memory. Um, there's a crowd, there's noise, there's smell, there's lights, there's a lot of new sensory information, and you need some processor power to block that out or to use that what is happening, like reading the room. You need that information, but the lights in your eyes, you need to block out that information, so you'll be able to process less cognitive load at that moment. So you need to have some margin, you need to have some processor power left. You won't be able to be running at 99% of your internal processor when you're playing these songs, because then you have no margin to go on stage. You need to have margin to go on stage. When they often say you need to be able to play a song at a 120% at home, so it's 100% on stage. Uh, it's kind of like that as well. You need to have some margin with that. Okay, so you recall your work in progress thing again. It was at the very beginning of the session, first thing, and without paper. Once again, same reason, because it's on the far end of your session and you want to wrap up. For me, the songs part is always the final section of a practice session. Uh, in many cases, songs are the only section of my practice session, because I practice a lot of things in songs, singing and techniques and lead lines. They're all incorporated in songs. I seldom practice them separately. So I lined up these blogs that we went over to. That's what's on this slide. I'll go on this for now. And we already went over time. Sorry, that's a bit my fault because I was later. So I will be going over the chat to check out if there is some questions on this that I need. Okay, thanks for loving the layer techniques. Rhythm and melody. I'm thinking I'm getting lost now from grids. No, the grids won't get you lost. They will help you. And if you decide not to use them, yes, then that is all fine. As said, these are all examples of things you can do, suggestions of mine. Um, They're not the law. I'm not your mom. Um, but at least give them a try, or try some bits of it and see how they work for you. Perhaps a different uh, point of view helps with that extra anchor for you to apply. So it happens. Basket Case is one of the next songs I want to tackle. Well, try to visualize what's happening first, and you'll see that it's quite an organic form, but there are some blocks repeating, and there are some big chunks of a few blocks repeating. Try to draw the lines like I did. Revisit the slides to check that out. Um, I'm having trouble memorizing lead lines, particularly solo and bridge. Well, this session didn't really cover that because it's aimed at a wide audience. But I thought about this when I was playing some basketball earlier today, and I came to the conclusion that I approach it in quite the same way. But the chunks are the shapes in which the solo is moving. And if it's always in the same shape, it's a subshape, or it's a part of the story. It's like, oh, this sounds like it's fun, or this is sounding doubtful, and I create sections of the fun, the doubtful, the bold statement, the cockiness of the player and stuff like that. I create chunks like this as well, and often in subshapes. I like to visualize what's going on the fretboard and seeing them as subshapes, because in many cases you see a player rotating some notes around the same four notes in a certain shape, and then it's important that you know this shape, because you're not learning a sequence of all these separate notes. You learn this little sub shape and the repetition that's going on, stuff like that. So creating chunks once again, and adhering to the layered approach of, I know which chords I'm over right now. And if you learn a solo or a lead part, that's the first thing you need to know. The solo is now playing over the chord this, and now over the chord that, and now the chord that, because this is the ultimate reference on what you will play. The shapes that you will play will, in most cases, fit into this chord in some way, being the shape, being the chord itself, perhaps, that you can recognize. So making the connection to the layers that are below that will help. Also, if you need to drop down because something happens on your gig and you have a lot of cognitive load, or at this moment you can't process the load there is, and you need to go down in complexity. This is why these layers exist. You have the control to go down and up when you want to, and you're in the middle of a solo, but something goes wrong or a string snaps. Then it really helps to know this part of the solo was over D major. I can do a little doodle over the D shape because that string wasn't affected, or I know this is the D major power chord, and I'll do a little repeating line over that. So being in control and being to switch there is more important than playing the solo exactly as it is. Because if you want to play the solo exactly as it is, and you fuck up one note, sorry for the F bomb, and you don't know what to do. You're not in control. You're lost, and you fumble, and that's when you really panic. And when you panic, zero processing power. Same thing for stage fright. Very little processing power. So being able to switch in layers gives you that control. All right. Good afternoon. Yes. Are we still going? Yes. Uh, okay. Somebody had issues. Wishes us long. It's what's in a while. Any suggestions on applying these to long instrumental sections? Well, what I just told you is um, trying to see shapes, subshapes, and associating things with those blocks, finding some anchors, finding associating meaning stories to pieces of your solo. What do you associate with it? It's more of a philosophical thing. It's not with lyrics and stuff like that, but the shape and what do you think is being told in the solo, because a solo needs to be a story on its own. Imagine it being a story, and creating these sub stories within the story of the solo can help you find some associations, even if it's something very graphical that can help you, or storyboards. It doesn't really matter what it is. Quick question: the structure chart, we have song structure. Blah, blah. What does these letters present? Intro, yes. The I is for intro, V is for verse, C is for chorus, B is for bridge, S is for solo, O is for outro. Um, Create your own system. I use just the first letter of these things, but create your own system. Um, Same question. C is for solos. Hi, Levin. Could you do a lesson on how to compose music via sheet notation? I'm not good in sheet notation. Uh, I never had real use for it. I'm learning a bit through Duolingo, but uh, I'm I don't need it, and I'm not using it, so I can't really. I'm not that good of a teacher to show you that. Sorry. Um, let's see. Okay, I think there's no more questions. If I missed your question, I'm terribly sorry about that. Drop me a mail on this address, leaving at Justin Guitar. Next session will be in April around the same time, 20th, I think, 20th of April. Um, if you have an idea for a session, I usually have ideas, but if you have an idea, let me know. If you have certain questions, it might be the inspiration for another session. Feel free to let me know if you have questions about what I've shown here today or in a different session. Let me know. If you want to book a session with me, a private session, because you are stuck, you have a certain goal, you want to get on stage, you have stage fright, you have still having issues with memorization, all stuff that keeps you from reaching the next level of success, and you want some help with that, you can always book a session for that. And for questions about the sessions, drop me a mail. Reach out anytime. Okay. We're far over our time right now, but that's because I'm always that passionate to talk about all these things. Um, it's always fun to see you all guys turning up and checking out the next session. We already did a session on memorization, but now today I added some parts about integrating some blocks into your practice schedule. Um, if you have still certain questions about things that I didn't really touch, I know it wasn't about memorizing lead parts. Perhaps that's one on the list. I could check out um, to do a session about memorizing lead parts, certain note parts. Uh, as long as you promise not to learn a song note for note from the beginning to end, and that way you end up with knowing intros to 20 songs but no complete song, then I'm willing to do this, because I want to facilitate the linear progress method, and most of you guys know that. Okay. See you guys next time. I hope there were some nuggets, valuable nuggets in this. The links to the slide deck and the grid sheets are on the community.justinguitar.com, where there's a section about all the live clubs, not only mine, but also Richard's and Lee's. Excellent sessions, excellent teachers, better teachers than I am. Check them out, definitely. Those are great free sessions, still all free. Ain't that great? See you guys next time. Bye bye.